Welcome to A Genuine Podcast, where I will have genuine people on an unedited podcast to talk about their passions, share a laugh, and maybe learn something along the way. If you enjoy the show, make sure to subscribe and follow me on my other platforms. I'm sending all my love to you. Enjoy! Well, I know you as zookeeper, Shirley, but so what is it exactly? Are you work at a zoo? What exactly is it that you do?
Yeah, I'm a zookeeper, so right now I'm actually about to start a brand new zoo. Most of my experience has been working with big cats and giraffes. As weird as that is, they don't really go together. But I'm actually about to start a new zoo with rhinos, giraffes, a whole bunch of hoof stock animals, some meerkats, which I'm super excited about.
Meerkats?
And Margo, sorry, my dog's going all over the place. Yeah, meerkat.
Okay. Interesting. What
Yeah.
Are you? And you're at one of the zoos in Florida, right?
Yeah, I'm about to start at the Brevard Zoo.
Interesting. So what got you interested in working with zoos?
Well, as a kid, I always kind of grew up with a huge love for animals. I would train my childhood dog to jump through hoops and stuff, and put on shows for the neighborhood. And of course, everyone was like, "Okay, Shelly." But yeah, so I started doing that as a child, and I live on the Intercoastal, which is the river that runs from the sea. Mm-hmm. So I would take down notes and pretend I was studying wild dolphins that would swim through the backyard and go down the river. So it was just kind of that type of stuff. And then I found Zoo Tycoon. I don't remember if you ever played that.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes.
Tycoon, and I would make zoos out of Beanie Babies in my bedroom.
That's awesome.
And then growing up, I always was telling people to recycle, telling people I don't remember what I told people as a kid, but now it's a lot of don't use single-use plastics, stuff like that, mm-hmm. Which kind of falls into conservation, which is what a lot of zoos put that message out. Mm-hmm. So it all just kind of fell together, and then I forgot about my passion and went to school for hospitality management. And I did that for 6 years, and I was like, man, people are nasty.
Yeah.
Decided to work at a vet clinic, and I did that for a couple months. And then I was like, it'd be really cool, tigers. So I found an internship in Kansas that was supposed to be 90 days, and I stayed there for 3 years.
That was going to be my next question, is because I know I feel like everyone is gonna say they love animals and stuff like that. No one's gonna be like, I fucking hate them.
Right.
And so, when for those who really love animals and want that to be their career, a zoo obviously is a good option. So how did you actually go about getting? You kind of just hinted at it with the internship, but if you could go into more detail about that? So what were the actual steps? Because I know, I've had a lot of internships and stuff. It's not as simple as just emailing somebody and they say yeah, just come on in. So can you go into a little bit more detail about how you got the internship in Kansas and then how you got to where you are now? For those listening who are animal lovers and would like to potentially have a career in working with animals.
Yeah, that's actually my favorite thing about this field is helping interns get a job. And helping people get their foot in the door, because it is a really incredibly competitive field. It's very hard. It's basically you have to know someone to get in. And so trying to get into the animal care field, most all zoos require a 4-year degree, mm-hmm. Which most people don't think that about zookeepers. They always think these people just pick up poop all day. You don't need a degree for that. But definitely schooling is required. A lot of my coworkers actually have masters, and then they don't get paid like a college graduate. But you get to work with animals. So yeah, definitely a college degree, at least 2 years. Sometimes they'll accept 2 years for experience, but then you gotta have experience to get experience. It's terrible, yeah. But definitely internships. Anything with animals helps. Working at a vet clinic I did. I also volunteered at a humane society, mm-hmm. Just walking dogs, socializing them, doing enrichment for them.
Mm-hmm.
So anything animal related, especially like people with horse experience, also really like have an advantage getting into the field because it's like that bigger animal, a little bit more exotic.
Mm-hmm.
But really anything animal related, you can expect to do about 3 to 4 unpaid internships before you land any kind of paid job, whether it's like a keeper assistant, which is like a lower level, or like a paid seasonal, so like the people that hand you the nectar to feed the birds in the zoo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so for me, I got this internship, excuse me, and I interned 5 days a week, and then I got hired on as a seasonal care, which was like taking care of the goats for people to come pet, like the lesser of the like exotic keeping, so it's more like it's like an entry animal kind of. So like working with the goats, the llamas, the more like barnyard animals.
Mm-hmm.
But with them, it's really great because they're good animals to learn on.
Mm-hmm.
You learn how to do like daily enrichment, so like toys, different foods, scents, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did interning 5 days a week. I did that 2 days a week. And then I got hired on as a keeper assistant, which was just helping like the main keepers within their roles like throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a keeper assistant at that point 5 days a week. And then I did the seasonal care 2 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
So it was 7 days a week at the zoo for a couple months until I actually got hired on as a full-time keeper. So one like huge thing for advice, like for interns, is it feels like the work you're doing as an intern isn't really like the zookeeping. Like you're picking up the poop, you're prepping the diets, you're doing all the like grunt work for the zookeepers. But what it is, it's like a 3-month long interview basically. So you really just gotta put your all into it, and you're gonna get noticed.
That's all. It's so fascinating to hear because, you know, I've mentioned on like, you know, TikTok and stuff that like I'd love to just like be a creator. I'm making this interview about me.
No, go ahead.
You know, well, I'll just give you my questions and you can ask them to me.
Perfect.
But I've mentioned that I'd love to be a creator, but like if I had to pick a real job, if I had to pick a job that like is a real job, I'd love to be able to work with animals. Like they're so, because I don't like people, first of all. But unfortunately I can't. But unfortunately, I can't interview a jaguar, so I'm stuck interviewing you. And so that was a joke.
When I start my job, I'll let you do an interview with a rhino. How about that?
You know, there we go. I'm so surprised how short rhinos are. Let me just take a moment. They're like waist high. I was expecting them to be like. I remember the first time I saw a video of a person just like jumping on the back of a rhino and riding it. I was expecting them to be tall. I didn't realize you could just ride a rhino. Anyway.
Oh, they're tiny.
That has nothing to do with this. Told you we would go on tangents. Mostly started by me. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, I'd love to work with animals and just like, you know, it's so fascinating to hear what the process is. So I'm mostly asking those questions for me. So like, if I'm forced to get a real job, which I'm probably going to be, it'd be so interesting to work with animals because they're, you know, and I follow a lot of dogs on social media, but I also follow a lot of like animal sanctuaries and stuff, and it's just so fun to see like the day to day and what goes into it.
It's really cool too. When I started my internship, it was September 2018, and then in October we had 4 tiger cubs born. And I was like, man, this is a perfect time to start an internship. So we actually like got to watch the tiger cubs grow, and like see them each develop their own personalities, and then go back and like, you know, obviously we took a lot of videos because they're really cute, and then go back and watch the videos like from when they were cubs, and like see how their personalities really like were kind of the same, which is really cool. And seeing them learn stuff from their mom and kind of grow up. So it's really cool with the animals because they all really do have their own personality. It's like your dogs at home. Like they prefer like certain spots to lay, certain food, certain toys. Same way with the tiger. It's weird.
Yeah, you say no kidding. I mentioned that I follow animal sanctuaries and stuff, and one of them a lot of tigers are in animal sanctuaries and stuff. And like you
Yeah.
just mentioned, there's a bunch of tigers and that always have different like personalities and stuff. And I never really thought about it that way, where it's like dogs, where it's like one
It
has
is.
one personality, and it's really funny that you mentioned it like that. Yeah, that's really awesome. Anyway, back to asking you questions and not just talking about myself.
Sorry.
It's fine. It adds the animal ambiance. And so I'm curious, you know, the between like working in a zoo and like working in like an animal sanctuary or working in other like working in a vet clinic like you mentioned and stuff, what kind of drew you to a zoo? Between all the animal avenues you could have taken, that's a weird way to phrase that question, but you know what I'm trying to say. What was the most appealing thing about a zoo?
Right. There's this thing called the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, or AZA.
Yes. Yes, I know. I weirdly know about this.
Well, there you go. That's where I went to look for my internship,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't really know anything. I mean, I know SeaWorld gets a lot of hate, and I actually used to work there. It's not something I really talk about often because people are so mean when it comes to SeaWorld. And, but they have banners like all over their park that says like Association of Zoos and Aquariums. It like shows how much they donate, and it shows how much like wildlife they save. So I'm like, what is AZA? Let me look into that. And so it's actually this really cool organization that is an accreditation for zoos.
Mm-hmm.
But you also, to be a part of it, you have to donate, I think it's like 3% of your sales go straight to conservation. They have a lot of events that they do to promote conservation and like kind of like green living almost. Like even this shirt I have on is a 5K from, I don't know if you can see, it's got a painted dog.
That's funny. I'm wearing a shirt from. I'm wearing my shirt from Best Buddies. Look at us.
Well,
We're being good people.
right, look at us. But like this was an event set up. It was a 5K for painted dogs to support all the rangers out there that are doing their best to, save these animals in the wild. But looking up more about zoos' missions, like most of them are pretty similar. They use their animals that they have as ambassador animals to promote, like rangers in the wild. Like at Topeka Zoo, we paid the salary of a ranger in Sumatra that was protecting tigers.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of more of that aspect. I mean, obviously the animals, like I wanted to work with the animals,
Mm-hmm.
but also knowing that you're part of a bigger picture that's
Mm-hmm.
going on that most people don't really see.
Mm-hmm.
That was like the main draw for it.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned SeaWorld and like the like scandalousness of, I don't know why I'm holding my glasses case. The scandalousness. That's how you know I got distracted and like zeroed in on the conversation, and I'm not like constantly looking at my questions over here. That you mentioned like the scandalousness of SeaWorld and like not wanting to talk about it. So first, I guess let me ask, like, so what is your opinion on SeaWorld? I don't know that much about it, so I don't really have an opinion on it because I don't know. I know they did some shady stuff with their like orcas potentially.
Right.
That might not even be right, so I don't even know that. But
Well, this is just my opinion, but I absolutely love SeaWorld.
mm-hmm.
Working there, no, I don't agree with how they started.
Okay, I don't know how they started. So
Well, yeah.
for those who don't know, including me, how did they start?
So obviously, I mean, you have to start somewhere, and they started by taking their animals from the wild. But, that stopped, I think, in the 70s, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they haven't taken an animal, obviously if it's a rescue, but SeaWorld doesn't determine whether an animal can stay. It's government run. That if there's like a rescued dolphin, the government will decide if that dolphin can be released back into the wild or not.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people will see like, oh, a dolphin's been rescued by SeaWorld, and then everyone's like, welcome to slavery, dolphin. But it doesn't really come down to that.
Yeah.
But at SeaWorld itself, I think they're a great facility. They are like one of the leaders, if not the leader, in like animal rescues, especially here in Florida. They're very involved with, getting manatees. They always have manatees. excuse me, and there's a huge behind the scenes area of SeaWorld that no one can really see.
Yeah.
I mean, they can kind of see it now. They've kind of incorporated it to their park.
Yeah.
But there's almost just as big as the park itself that's dedicated to just rescuing animals.
Yeah.
And there's like a whole bunch of tanks back there for sea life that come in, and it's a pretty amazing place. Yeah, they have a sketchy past, but like, don't we all?
So it's funny that you mentioned the like that part. You love of animals, but like there's like a part like you don't want to talk about because
Right.
I've obviously mentioned my love of animals. The kind of what started that. One of the things that started that, because obviously I've like loved dogs my entire life, but who doesn't love dogs? So that's not unique. I don't get to like pat myself on the back for loving dogs. One of the thing that kind of expanded my love of animals was when I happened to I watch YouTube. I've mentioned that on TikTok before. I don't have a TV or anything, so I just like watch YouTube. I happened to stumble on the YouTube channel for Big Cat Rescue. I had never seen Tiger King before. I had never seen Tiger, so let me disclaim that for anyone watching this. I had never seen Tiger King before, and I stumbled upon Big Cat Rescue's YouTube channel, and the video was like, Big Cat eating a popsicle. And I was just like, oh, this is funny, I'll watch this. And so then the next one was like, do big cats like boxes too? And I was just like, oh, that seems also fun. And I watched like 4 or 5 videos, and they were all really funny. And so then I got like sucked down this YouTube rabbit hole. And then after like a couple of hours of watching like really funny videos, I'm like getting sucked into all these like animals, like big cat stories. One of the videos just happened to end with like, and Big Cat Rescue is proudly owned by Carole Baskin. And I was just like, Carole Baskin? Like, wasn't she the person that killed somebody? Like,
oh, you didn't know it was her?
No, I didn't. Well, because I didn't watch Tiger King, and so all I heard about was Tiger King. About Tiger King was like from social media, and I wasn't on TikTok at that time, and so I had heard one of the songs of like,
Oh yeah,
and like, but like I didn't know, and so I didn't know it was Carole Baskin, and so I just kind of ignored that one video, or like ignored that like thing of like proudly owned by Carole Baskin. Watched a few more videos. Another video happened in that way though. Then I was like, before I get even more sucked into these animals, I better just like look up the story, do my own private investigating. And so I looked it up, and I was just like, I can comfortably say, like, I don't think she was the one pulling any triggers or doing any stabbing or doing any meat grinding. So I was just like, I feel okay supporting Big Cat Rescue. Is she kind of creepy? Yes, but like,
she gives off that vibe.
But like, whatever. She does a lot of good, is what I will say. She's like, even if she did kill somebody, like,
right?
She does a lot. Like, she like definitely does a lot of good.
Sketchy past, like, it's usually the love for animals starts off in a selfish way, and then ends up good, if that makes sense.
And so it's funny that we have this similar. Now I don't want to suck you into saying like, oh, I also support Big Cat Rescue. No, I know that's not what you're saying, but we have this similar thing of SeaWorld, Big Cat Rescue, because the Big Cat Rescue is the YouTube channel. I subscribe to Big Cat Rescue's YouTube channel, and that's probably the channel I watch the most. No, I watch dog channels the most, but if you combine all the dog channels I watch the most, that would be what's the most. But the single most YouTube channel I watch is Big Cat Rescue, and it's just, and since I did so much research to like figure out if she actually like killed somebody,
right,
to see if I should be supporting this. It's been so fascinating to watch, and that's how I learned about what AZA was and GFAS, Global Federation of American SpongeBobs or whatever, and so that's not what it stands for, people. I know it's like Global Federation of something. I don't know what those last 2 letters stand for, but GFAS is so I'm guessing the S stands for sanctuaries.
Probably.
It's probably animal sanctuaries. That wouldn't really make sense. Anyway, not important. And so, that's how I learned about all that stuff and rescuing and like what, zoos are good, and like roadside zoos are like just because it's labeled a zoo doesn't mean it's a good zoo. And so, yeah, that's why, I was so interested to talk to you about, your background with animals and what you do with animals, because it's, you know, since my knowledge of animals, since it's really just the past year, not knowledge, my love of animals, still don't have any knowledge of animals. I can't sit here and say, like, you and I are on the same level. No, that's not what I'm saying, anyone listening. But since my love of animals has grown, especially like wild animals, and especially it's one of those things where it's like I never really even realized like what a problem it was.
What a what?
What like a problem it was, because the statistic you always hear is like there are more tigers in Texas alone than there are in all of the wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's terrible. Like these poor tigers that get stop. Okay, these poor tigers bred for like private use, and then people don't realize that they grow up and they turn into tigers.
Yeah, like that's and like that's it's crazy, and like to go back to my big cat rescue. Now I'm just gonna be talking the whole time. Sorry. You literally just got on this, and I'm not even asking you questions anymore. To go back to the big cat rescue example, I literally should just do Zoom calls with myself. They always talk about like even because they get questions all the time of like why don't you pet them? Like why don't you like touch them? And it's just like they have one of their youngest tiger there is like he's like very sweet but like can be very aggressive because he's like 4 or whatever. And there was an incident at Big Cat Rescue that you probably might have heard of because I don't know if you follow like animal news, where it's like he.
My news feed.
I don't know. I didn't know, but he like bit one of the volunteers, and it's just like that just goes to show that like even though they work with these animals every day and they get to know them, it's like they're not pets, and it's crazy to me that like you'll see pictures on like Instagram of like models like swimming with tigers or wild animals, and I'm just like that's such a terrible idea. Like,
terrible idea.
Like that's so awful. Or like
that's like the one of the key things that I'll tell people that we tell people a lot. If you see a human interacting with some kind of primate or some kind of big cat, it's a very safe bet to not support that place.
Yeah, it's so
it's like or like someone holding a sloth. It's just those animals aren't getting the life that they need.
Yeah,
they could up young, but they're gonna grow up.
Because it's funny, because anytime, like on talk shows, you'll see like Jimmy Kimmel or whatever, like bring on some animal expert. I used to like love those segments were so cool, but now I just think like, what are you doing? It's such a terrible idea to like bring on a jaguar cub. Like,
right.
That could go so terribly for everyone.
Yeah. And so let's put it on live television.
And so, and it's literally like, because you'll hear them say like, oh, he's a little spooked right now. It's like, yeah, no kidding.
Like, right, because it's on a talk show.
It's crazy. But anyway, back to the interview. Back to the conversation. Enough about my tangent. So, you've mentioned your... first I just want to ask, this is a very stupid, like, elementary school question, but what's like the favorite... You mentioned you got into it because of tigers. And people always ask me, like, what's your favorite animal on my TikTok Live? And I always say, like, tigers, just because I love seeing them on the Big Cat Rescue videos. But so, like, what is your favorite animal? I'm curious from the perspective of a zookeeper.
Well, I wanted to work with, there's this very specific species of dolphin I wanted to work with that no one has, so it was impossible. It's a dusky dolphin. They were off New Zealand. But I came up to Topeka because it was a general internship, so you worked with the entire zoo. So one day I could be with the sun bears and the orangutans, and then the next day I'd be with elephants and giraffes and the hippo, and the next day I'd be with like bears and lions. Like it was just it was a really cool mix. Mm-hmm. But I ended up really enjoying the big cats, um, which I thought I was going to like the elephants more because they're like, I don't know, they're just cool.
Yeah.
But the big cats were more my style. They're high energy, they're fun to work with, they make you work for it. So anyways, long story short, my favorite animal is a lion. And it wasn't a lion before I worked there. So there was this one lion, his name was Beavis. He actually did this painting right here.
Is it like a lick painting thing?
No, it's his paws.
Oh, okay. That was going to be my next visit of paw.
Right. Anyways, there was this one lion named Avis, and he was really cool. He was 16 when he passed away, but he wouldn't do anything for anyone. He was a true cat until I started working with the carnivores. So once I started working with the carnivores, he would do everything that I asked him, and it was the coolest thing ever. And the other keepers would walk in, and he would drop the food out of his mouth and walk away. He wanted nothing to do with any other keeper except for me. So I think that alone made me fall in love with lions, because I was like, this is so cool. I have a bond with the king of Africa. This is crazy. Yeah, definitely lions and dolphins. It's a weird mix, but...
That's awesome. And so you kind of just mentioned a cool story, but that made me think of a good follow-up question. Of all your time working with animals then, and you can even include your time working at the vet clinics and stuff, what's your coolest animal story? Or when I ask, it doesn't have to be a cool one, but what's an animal story that kind of sticks out in your head?
Avis is obviously the top choice.
Yeah.
That's an amazing cat, and he really made you work for it. So I had to work him, kind of. Mm-hmm. It was like playing a mind game. Mm-hmm. Way worse than dating. It was, no matter what you did, Avis was one step ahead of you.
Yeah.
So, to get him in the morning, you could call his name once, and that was it. If you called him twice, he was not going to come inside. Mm-hmm. If you looked at him, he was not going to come inside.
Yeah.
You had to basically ignore him and make him do everything on his terms. But really, it was your terms. You were calling the shots, but you couldn't let him know. So he was actually, everything with him was just super cool. And, my boss told me at the time that she thinks, because he was on a lot of meds, 16 is really old for a lion.
Yeah.
They live about 10 to 12. And, so, my boss always, told me that she thinks I extended his life by several months by being there and, working with him. So that made me feel really good. When he passed away, it was terrible. It was, the worst month of my life.
Yeah.
Because it was, the first animal that, I really bonded with and that really, made a difference in their life. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that and the tiger cubs. Because when they're super little, we would go in, pick them up, and weigh them. Mm-hmm. And, health checks on them daily. So it was really cool, getting to interact with them until they got too big and they started biting. We're like, we're not anymore.
Yeah,
but while they grow up, especially, they're such an endangered species. They were Sumatran tigers. They're the smallest of the 6 subspecies of tigers. Mm-hmm. They're still about 250 pounds. Pretty big.
Yeah, no kidding.
But watching them grow up and turn into actual cats, and now they're traveling to different zoos to start their own families and make their own cubs. Mm-hmm. It's really cool to watch that kind of life cycle.
I was just saying, yeah, that would be a really, just to get to work with them would be so cool, and get to see that process would be really a neat experience. And so I'm curious, you mentioned getting to see the growth of an animal and feeding and all that stuff. So, of all the different duties that you have, what's kind of your favorite thing that you get to do?
Definitely training. So a kind of a run through of my day is we get there, we go to the commissary, pick up all their food, and we'll go to different exhibit enclosures and bring the animals inside, because the animals can stay. They have their own indoor area, and then they have their outdoor area. And throughout the night, they have access to both. They can go in or out, whatever they choose. It also depends on temperature and weather. Like if there's a storm coming, we'll open it up, get them inside. So they have a choice. They can go inside or outside most of the time. And that's when people complain that they can't see animals at the zoo because they chose to go inside and chill in the AC. But where was I going with this?
You were saying your day, which was a question I probably should have asked at the beginning. What's your daily schedule look like?
So we go in for the day, pick up the food, bring all the animals in, go out into their exhibits while the animals are locked inside, pick up all their poop from the day before, redo all their water bowls, switch out their enrichment. We can change, like move logs around, put different things in their exhibit, lock it back up, let the animals back out, and then clean the inside. And depending on where you work, you could do that. So where I worked, it was lions, painted dogs, and tigers. So I would do that 3 different times, and that took till about lunchtime. And then go to lunch, come back, and then that's when my favorite part is. So I mean, like the cleaning and stuff that comes with the job, that's like 80% of the job. But the training is actually super fun. So it makes the life of the animals a lot like stress-free, a lot easier. So like one example are these paintings behind me. I have this huge wall of animal paintings. You can't see all of them, but there's this huge wall of animal paintings. So the animals, it depends on the animal, but like this one right here is our female lions. They're trained to go step in the paint, walk over, step on the canvas, and then come back to their keeper for a reward. So that's like a fun example of training, at least fun for us. We love it. But they're also trained a lot in their healthcare, so they know how to like go up on scales. They know how to like stand up on their back paws. And you can trim their nails actually for them, which you don't really have to. They do it on their own. But they're also trained on how to get injections. They are trained on getting blood taken from their tail to run their blood to check all their values. They are trained to open their mouth so the vet can inspect their mouths, see what's going on there. There's a lot of cool things that animals can do. I mean, obviously they're super food motivated too, so it's kind of but yeah, a lot of them can urinate on command. They'll turn around, give you their backside. The orangutans get their temperature taken every morning. It's just, it really makes keeping an eye on their health easy for us and them. But training's fun.
Yeah, I was just saying that would be something that's really fascinating because I've seen animals be trained from my big cat rescue videos, and yeah, it seems really fascinating to get to be a part or to see how that's, because I mean they're like smart. Like we always think that like we're smart, but like the animals are smarter. Especially, well, my experience of watching animals is with big cats, but like, and you obviously have a much wider array of animals that you've worked with, and so you have much more knowledge than I do. But they're much smarter than we give them credit for, I think. And so
yeah. I mean, most people think, I mean, they do lay around a lot, but most people are like, yeah, they just lay around and get fed, and
yeah,
that's pretty true. But they also have a lot of like mental stimulation at the zoos.
I'm curious. You said you worked with giraffes, and my sister, I know, would kill me if I didn't ask about that because she loves a giraffe. So what's it like? What's it like working with a giraffe? What's their temperament? What's giraffe life like? Because she loves herself a giraffe. She literally has like little giraffe like paint on one wall in her bedroom. So I've got to ask. you about giraffe life.
Actually, I just bought this for my dog yesterday. I haven't given it to him yet.
When my sister moved to her new place in Austin, Texas, I bought her a banner that said "Welcome to Giraffic Park."
Oh my gosh, that's terrible.
I was pretty proud of that. Not gonna lie, that deserves a pat on the back.
Yeah, that was real good.
But yeah, so what's a giraffe? Because I don't know what I know. Cats sleep like 20 hours a day, but what is
giraffes are pretty cool. I don't know how to say this without insulting the giraffes.
They're not listening. It's okay.
Yeah, I definitely prefer the carnivores, but the giraffes, they will surprise you. I mean, they stand around and lick walls a lot of the time. But when they like get into their training, there's actually some pretty cool things. So Topeka had, I mean, I didn't work with them for too long, but Topeka has a really amazing giraffe team. They're working on a lot of things. They actually just moved a giraffe. So a giraffe left Kansas and went to Oregon, I think. I don't know where it went. But they like, yeah.
I don't think anyone's going to fact check you.
But yeah, so like there's a lot of training and stuff you can do with giraffes, and you have a little bit of attention span with them. But overall, they're pretty sweet. They're very curious. They get themselves into a lot of trouble because they're so curious. There was one night I got home. We had this like live YouTube stream 24/7 at Topeka Zoo. And there's this thing called the Chatters, and there's a bunch of people that just watch the cameras and talk, and they like know us, they know our personalities, they know our animals, and I just sat down. It was right at the beginning of COVID, so my friends and I were having virtual game night, and I just sat down. I got like a tub of ice cream out. I was like, this is such a terrible day. I'm just gonna relax and eat this ice cream and play Jackbox with my friends. And as soon as I sat down and opened the ice cream, I took one bite, and my phone started ringing. And it was one of the Chatters, like calling me on Facebook Messenger or something. And she's like, hey, not to alarm you, but one of the giraffe's heads is stuck. I was like, what? What do you mean it's stuck? So I immediately like had to actually I went into my PJs. I went into work in my pajamas. But I immediately like just left my ice cream on the table, and I ran out and got in my car and went like 80 miles an hour on a 35 just to get to the zoo. And by the time I got there, this giraffe had already gotten himself unstuck. And so here I am on live YouTube stream in my little PJ shorts running around the zoo in my flip-flops in Kansas in the winter.
I was waiting for you to say, like, these giraffes always get their tongues stuck to a flagpole. Like...
No, it was his head. I wish he had his whole head stuck. The biggest giraffe. He destroyed every enrichment you got him. He basically was on a self-destructive mission. No matter what we gave him, he found a way to destroy it or ingest it or get his head stuck. So they're very curious, but they're pretty sweet. They'll let you like pet them, and they are hoof stock, so they do get spooked, and they can kill you with a kick.
Yeah.
But
I've always heard, I don't know if this is true, you probably know about this more than I do. I've always heard that they have the ability to like decapitate a lion with a kick. Is this...
I don't know. Decapitate?
I've always heard on like Nature, like National Geographic, where it's like, their kicks. Like, it's like David Attenborough. I can't do it as an impression. Or it's just like, they can decapitate a lion with a kick. It's just like, jeez. Like, could you imagine like...
I believe.
Can you imagine just be like riding in the savannah, then all of a sudden like a lion head just goes flying by? That'd be insane. And so
I did almost get kicked in the face once by a giraffe, and I literally like its hoof was like right here, and I was just like, terrifying.
That's one of those times where you just take 5 minutes to compose yourself in the
I
break
did.
room.
I had to go sit down, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And I was just like,
like I almost just got kicked. My head almost just got kicked off my shoulders. Like,
right?
I need a minute. That's insane. Oh, that makes my heart beat a little faster.
Yeah.
To just be like, to see a giraffe hoof. Claw? What are they called? Talon? Anyway, doesn't matter. Is it a hoof? Anyway. Hoof? And so, anyway, yeah, that'd be terrifying. But yeah, I'd probably prefer working with the carnivores too, because even though they could kill me easily,
right?
it'd be, because I always used to say my favorite animals were lions and elephants. But then once I thought about it, it was like, I don't know. I just enjoy watching a tiger. Like, they're cool.
They're a lot of fun.
They're cool animals. It's funny to say that, like, even though they're a cat, I do always find myself thinking, like, they have the personality of a dog. Like, me being my, like, just like, you know.
They're personalities are all over the place.
Yeah, it's weird to think that they're related to cats because they do obviously have some characteristics of a traditional house cat, where it's just like, oh, they just kind of like do things on their own terms. But like, before I started watching Big Cat Rescue, I never would have guessed that cats like to swim, or like tigers like to swim and stuff.
Yeah, tigers love water. Absolutely.
Yeah. I never would have guessed that. And it was just like, oh yeah, they just like chill in the pool. It's just like, what?
Yeah.
Like, and it's
Yeah,
just
I
like,
put bubble bath in their pools, and they would have giant bubble baths and like all their balls in there, and they would have like a ball pool party, and it was a lot of fun. They love the pool.
that is so funny.
I'll send you videos.
Please, yes, please send me videos. I so badly want to see that. Oh my God, that's amazing. Oh, that is so fantastic. You waited till now to tell me that? Like, we should have began with that. We should have just only done this interview about that. Oh, that's fantastic. I cannot wait to see that. Oh my goodness. That is fantastic. So you've mentioned kind of what brought you here. So what would you like to, looking forward now, what would you like to be able to do going forward? You've mentioned how you've kind of been able to climb the animal ladder. So terrible analogy, but we'll roll with it. What would you like to be able to kind of do going forward? Is it, staying in zoo life? Is it just climbing further up the zoo ladder? Is it going to start your own zoo? No, don't do that. That's
too much work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the animal side, not so much the business side.
Yeah.
What I would like to do, I don't really know. I really enjoy the aspect of introducing people to animals and being able to teach them about these animals. Because like the face of like a child or even adult, like we had sloth encounters up in Topeka. Like we just got to come in and basically just feed them because the sloths, like we didn't handle them, we didn't touch them really. Mm-hmm. But people would cry. Like they would come in and like grown men would cry, like seeing these sloths and like being able to feed them and interact with them. And then you get that like moment of opportunity to teach them about like, use sustainable items like from the grocery store. There's like these little logos like Rainforest Alliance that you can look up, and mm-hmm. I don't know. It feels like you're making a difference. I don't know if we are. I think they'd just be crying over sloths. But
no, you definitely are.
Right. It's just I would like to keep just doing that. Basically, is especially at this new zoo I'm starting when it's not COVID. They do rhino encounters, and like that's something I'm super excited for. Is like introduce people to rhinos. And granted, I don't really know much about rhinos right now because I've never worked with them, but like I'm super excited to learn and be able to like pass that knowledge on to others so that they can, first of all meet a rhino, like that's so cool, mm-hmm. but also to help their wild counterparts. Like it's awesome. It's a really cool feeling.
Kind of now going backwards, I know I kind of asked a question that was like looking forward. Now going back to the present, though, because you just made me think of an interesting question for someone who is watching this that might be interested in taking a similar path. So you went from Topeka, and you said you're now in Florida, but now you went to just a different zoo within the state of Florida. So how does that happen? Is it by your choice, or does somebody say like, hey, you should, like, there's a spot opening here in this Florida Zoo that you would be good for. You should look at that. Or is it someone saying, like, go there?
No, it's...
how does that go about? How does that happen?
It's just like finding a new job. So all my family's in Florida. Okay. And I have a niece who's, like, she had just turned 1, and I'd only seen her once in my life. Okay. And I was like, man, like I'm missing out on so much. Like my parents are getting older, and I'm like, I want to be around family, like while they're here, Mm-hmm. And so I started looking for Florida jobs, and I got one. And I was like, I don't know, like I really love the animals here. I have so many friends here. Like I had a really cool life up in Kansas that I made. But then I thought about, like I need to be with, family right now. And it was also -30 the day they offered me the job. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go. 30, and they were doing like the rolling blackouts, and like all the animals were locked inside, and we had like extra heaters everywhere, and all the buildings were like covered in blankets, like just trying to keep it warm. Mm-hmm. And go to Florida.
Yeah. And then
so yeah, the AZA website has a job/intern board. Like that, that's where I got my first internship. But I just kept checking for like the last like month or so before I got the job. I would check every day to look for openings in Florida. But it is extremely rare to get a job near where you live. Like obviously I had to move to Kansas for 3 years because you have to go wherever you go because you don't have many opportunities to get your foot in the door in this field.
This is true. I'm assuming. Yeah. I was to say, I'm guessing the nearest zoo near me there's probably a zoo in Denver somewhere, but...
Yep, there's a Denver zoo.
I was going to say, I'm guessing, but there's probably not much space to put a zoo in the middle of, like, downtown Denver where there's a bunch of skyscrapers, so...
Right.
Like, it's probably out of the way a little bit. And so... Yeah. So I'm curious then, what inspired the move from within the Florida zoos? Because you said you liked working with the tigers and where you were, and then now you just started at this new zoo with working with rhinos. Was it just because you wanted to know more about rhinos, or kind of what inspired that?
It was really just the location.
Oh.
And the zoo is ranked number 2 in Florida. So, like, that was also super exciting. I had never been, but my mom told me all the time. She's like, you need to work there. You need to work there. And I was like, all right, like, I'll try. And I totally wasn't expecting to get the job just because I didn't have experience with anything but giraffes. That was, like, in this new collection of animals I'm about to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, it was basically just the location and the reputation of the zoo. The zoo also has an awesome sea turtle hospital and rescue that they do.
Mm-hmm.
So that was also a huge appeal to me. Just being able to like be a part of that as well. I don't really know if I'm going to be a part of it. I've heard that we are, but I don't know.
Very
but
cool.
Just know
You know, it makes me think of the one time I shadowed at a news station, and I was with a reporter for a day, and he said it's all about in that industry. It's all about just moving up the to different stations and different cities that have the widest reach. I don't know what the term is, but he started off in Birmingham, and then he went to Indianapolis where I was, and then he was looking to go to Atlanta, and it's all about going to the size of the market. That's what it is. And so it's Indy is the 25th market, and Atlanta's the 3rd, and so that kind of made me think of that, where it's Florida, the Florida zoo you were at was 10th or whatever, and now you're going to the 2nd one. Interesting.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited.
Well, congratulations. That's awesome. I didn't realize zoos had ranking. That's kind of funny.
I think Zoo Miami is number 1 in Florida.
How do you might not even know this, but how do zoos get rankings?
I have no idea.
Okay, that's fine.
My guess would be Google reviews. I have no
idea. Anyway, I thought that probably could have been a question I'd ask off the air, but anyway, I thought I'd ask it. So, second to last question then, I'll ask is, if you could leave the listeners with nothing else, if they take nothing else away from our conversation, what do you want to tell the listeners?
Jeez.
Put the pressure on you for this question. If they remember nothing else, you could say something as simple as always love yourself. Or you could say something as finite as rhinos, you need to scoop up their poop every day.
Just rhinos. I would definitely, if there was one thing, I would say that zoos are not what they used to be, and that people should give them a chance and check them out. I know they have a terrible reputation. Accredited zoos. Check out accredited zoos.
Yeah, okay. Good. Okay. And then last question then is, if people want to find out more about working with animals or zoos, or they want to reach out to you about doing that, what is the best way they can reach you, or what is the best way they can learn more about zoos and doing all that stuff? So I'll give you a chance to plug yourself or plug zoo reaching things. You've already kind of talked about AZA.com or whatever. that was? AZA
Yes,
something?
AZA.org is a huge resource. A lot of us are members of that association, so we get like new research, we get new training, like tips, new enrichment, stuff like that. If you want to reach me, my name's Shelly Kinsey. I don't know any of my handles, to be honest, except for TikTok, which I don't really use that often. I basically get on, like, I'll get a notification that you're live or something, and then I'll be like, oh, let me go watch. That saxophone player, like the 2 notifications I get.
I'm just that entertaining.
What?
I said I'm just that entertaining that you just want to see me go live.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, anyone can reach out to me. Any questions, even if they're negative about Zoo, I get those all the time. I don't know my handles, but yeah, definitely AZA. There's also called AZAC. It's the American Association of Zookeepers. It's aazk.org, I think. That's also a good resource, and that also includes zoos that are not accredited, which isn't always a bad thing. It's super expensive to become accredited. So sometimes zoos, like, even though their standards are super high, they don't always choose to be accredited. Mm-hmm. But yeah, any of those.
And if you have a question specifically for Zookeeper Shelly here, you can always reach out to me, and I can give you her Instagram.
There you go.
Because I have it. I don't know what it is off the top of my head. I don't even know what mine is off the top of my head.
Right.
But yeah, I can always give that to you, and you can ask her questions if you'd like. She can't give you a job, but she can give you advice, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so thank you, Shelly, so much for doing this. I don't think I called you Zookeeper Shelly more than 3 or 4 times. So look at me.
I don't think you did at all, did you?
Who knows? This, of all my interviews, this one definitely went off track, off topic the most. So whatever. When you win some, you lose some.
Right.
And so, but thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. This was definitely the most, I asked you to do this with me, and so I appreciate you taking the time. You were building a fence yesterday, so I appreciate you making time in your schedule for me. But, so thank you so much for doing this with me, Shelly. I appreciate it.
Of course, not a problem.
Thank you for listening to A Genuine Podcast. If you enjoyed, I hope you will subscribe and follow me on my other platforms. Until next time, I'm sending all my love to you.